Hi, so I'm Tom Schrey. This is Artworks Foundry in Berkeley, California. We are a bronze sculpture foundry where artists bring their work to us and we take it through the whole process to take their original clay sculpture or whatever it might be, wood, plaster, wax, and take it through the whole process to cast it into bronze. What we do is start with the mold making process and go all the way to the final patina process through a series of steps to make it into bronze, and that we will explain. So this is the mold department, and this is where it all starts. People bring in their sculptures. Usually they're in clay, but it could be plaster, wax, wood. But what happens here is we make a flexible rubber, reusable mold that we can use for pouring waxes, casting waxes. And we do that by brushing layers of rubber over the sculpture. In here is original plaster and clay sculpture called Nine Muses. And you can see they have, I think all the rubber is then brushed over it, about a ½ inch thick layer of rubber. Over this will be a plaster jacket or mother mold that'll protect it and contain the rubber. And when this whole thing is done, they'll remove the original sculpture, take it out back and pour the hot liquid wax into the mold. And when that wax cools, we get a positive wax just like the original sculpture. So that's the mold process, and that's what's happening in this room.
So whenever a piece comes into the foundry for the casting process, this is where it starts. Unless they have a mold and they bring their own mold. So they could bring a mold and then we start with the wax. But this is in order to get the wax, which is fundamental in the lost wax process, which this represents.
So we saw how the molds were made in the mold department. Now here's a mold that's been finished. You see the rubber liner on the inside, a plaster case, mother mold on the outside. So Ricardo is going to pour a hot liquid wax into the mold, slush around it a few times, dump it out, and that's how we get a hollow wax. So we're going to watch how he does that. He wants to be sure he pours enough in that when he turns it around, it's going to coat all the surfaces on the inside. So that's the first coat, and he'll repeat that 2 more times to get about a ½ inch thick layer of wax on the inside of the mold. So here's the wax that's fresh out of the mold. You can see it's hollow. It's only about a ½ inch thick. That's done by, remember, we pour the wax in and out a few times. We get a wax replica exactly like the original sculpture. In this case, this is Lawrence Noble's Obi-Wan bust. When the wax comes out of the mold, there's normally a parting line where the 2 mold halves came together, and that's what our technicians here in the background are working on to clean it up.
You can see that parting line right here.
Yeah.
All the way going up the side. And that needs to be taken away. And then it needs to match what's to either side of it. And that's part of the ability and the craft of a good wax person is they know how to make that chasing so that it reverts back to what was originally in the mold, and now what will be everything you see in wax will now become bronze. And you mentioned how heavy does it weigh. This probably weighs what, 2 pounds?
A couple pounds.
But in the bronze, it's going to weigh several pounds. And then when you add a base to it, it's going to be hard to lift. So it's just part of the transcendence, I think, of a clay sculpture into bronze. It's a magical thing.
So here we have a piece with the gating system attached. We talked about earlier. In a later stage, the bronze we poured in the cup, it'll flow out these channels into this hammer form, which as you can see is a hollow hammer because we poured the hollow wax. So we attached this delivery system for the bronze to be delivered into the piece. And of course we're only after this hammer, but we have to add all this in order to achieve that. So the pouring cup, the main feeder tubes, and these are vents that allow the air to escape. So this whole assembly will become bronze. Of course, then afterwards we have to cut off all these channels and grind down a sand to finish it where those are attached. And as you can see, this little section and this little section were cut away in order to keep it hollow. So those will have to be welded back in and sanded back down to complete the sculpture.
And part of the reason why they make these hollow is so that when it goes to investment and they're putting sand on it, they can see it's got to go inside and outside, and they need to see that it's covering.
So, and we'll see that process next, is how we make the investment coating around the wax that will later contain the bronze.
And here they're adding the investment, the ceramic investment. Remember, what we're watching is the lost wax investment process. So we have the wax, right? We showed you the gated and sprued wax. Then it comes over here to be coated with that ceramic shell. And it's done in stages. And so you wet it first, you dip it into that green fluid, and then take it over to the ceramic fine sand and coat it inside and out. And you go through a number of those steps through coarser and coarser sand until it's completely coated. The pieces that are in the back that are hanging, they're drying in between the coatings. And when that's all ready, then it's going to go to our next stage. Right.
So there may be anywhere from 8 coats up to maybe 15 or 16 coats on some of those larger pieces. But within a week, starting on Monday, by Friday, these will all be finished and ready to go outside and have the wax melted out of them. Now remember, the wax is still inside these as they're coating them, letting them dry for a couple hours in between each coat. They have to be thoroughly dry before they go on to the next coat.
And Tom brings up a good point. They're on schedule. So everything that comes through here needs to be on that schedule. Their schedule is centered around the primary focus of a foundry, which is the bronze pour. So the pieces need to come in and be on schedule to meet the next bronze pour in order for it to be economically feasible to do it.
After the ceramic shell process, which we saw where they dip the waxes into the ceramic shell slurry and then the sand is applied to it, and that process is repeated 10 to 15 times to build up a thick enough coat of ceramic shell around the waxes. Those are now brought out to the foundry area where they go in the kiln and they brought up to a temperature which melts all the wax out. Now you have a hollow void where the wax used to be, and that's where the bronze will be poured into. So the ceramic shells are in the kiln in a basket. When those are hot, they take them out, set them down. Meanwhile, they lift the crucible out of the floor furnace with the 2,000-degree bronze, molten bronze in it, and pour the bronze, fill up each cup with the molten bronze. After about 10 minutes or so, they can start chipping away at that ceramic shell to expose the raw bronze castings. Then they go inside the shop to be sanded and sandblasted, finished, ready for the final patina. So this is the patina process. This is the last step in the process where they apply the color to the bronze. And that's done by, you can hear the torches in there. They have propane torches heating up the bronze with flame, the torch. Gets it very hot, and then they apply different chemical solutions to it depending on what color they want. You can see this range of colors that we have here. We can get greens and blues and reds, even whites, and then they do a lot of blending, a lot of layering to get different effects. And they, depending on how they apply the color, they can get different textures. So there's a lot of possibilities and a lot of range of colors that's possible. This is the last step. When the color goes on, the patina is correct, and the artist is happy, they'll put a protective coat of wax over that, and that'll lock in and preserve the patina for a long time.
And the person that does that is called a patineur, and that's their profession. That's what they do here. And they work in conjunction with the artist who has the vision, right, and needs someone who knows the knowledge of chemistry. And the chemicals that are applied, just, they're wonderful. I mean, you see bismuth will turn the whole piece white, an application of bismuth. An application of cupric turns it green, if you need green in an area. An application of ferric oxide will turn it rust color, that's ferrous. And so, and then sulfurated potash will turn it black. So with the layering, as Tom mentioned, of the different chemicals, you've just got a whole potpourri of wild and wonderful color that you can delve into. Color helps make the piece. And when you bring the piece into here, the magic really happens through that torch. You see the process in its most direct form of heat transferring to imagery, and it's just a beautiful process to witness. And while the metal chasers and wax chasers and everyone here plays a pivotal role, the patineur is the one that gets the last credit, you know, and everyone has a relationship with a patineur, not unlike the artist's relationship with the model. You know, you are in concert with the model as you're in concert with the patineur to help bring your vision, your dream into reality. And that's the beauty of a place like Artworks.